now we're moving on to some bullet bookmarks that I put for this book called How Emotions Are Made by Lisa Feldman Barrett. I like this one here. Emotions and illness. So most attribute getting colds from a virus, and yet when scientists placed a cold virus into the nose of 100 people, only about 25 to 40% got sick. So the cold virus cannot be the essence of a cold. So sometimes, what I got from that is that, it's the way you feel, it's your emotions, it's your mental state that gets you sick, right? So if you believe that you won't get sick, you won't. All right, the next bookmark I have here is stress doesn't come from the outside world, you construct it. Some stress is positive, like the challenge of learning a new hobby. Some are negative but tolerable, like an argument with a friend, and some are toxic, like a chronic stress from prolonged poverty. So yeah, in other words, stress is a population of diverse instances. It's a concept just like happiness or fear that you apply to construct experience from an imbalanced body budget. So what do I mean by that? Stress can be good, can be bad. There's positive and negative stress, just like there's good and bad cholesterol and good and bad fat. Chronic stress is usually bad stress, right? You stress your body to make positive changes. That's good stress. But if you're constantly stressed by work, by finances, anything that happens a lot, hence chronic, that's bad stress. But when sometimes you feel stressed by, everyday stuff that is unavoidable, like traffic or like deadlines at work, remind yourself that this is part of life and you can't really avoid it. So that way, it'll actually make you less stressed when you stress about it, if that makes sense. All right, so now we move on to the next. Why can you sue someone for breaking your leg but not your heart? I like that. Why can you sue someone for breaking your leg but not your heart? The law considered emotional damage to be less serious than physical and less deserving of punishment. Na-hurt na ba yung heart mo?
No.
Hindi pa. Yun. Boy kasi ito si... Think of how ironic this is. The law protects the integrity of your anatomical body, but the integrity of your mind, and even though your body is the container for the organ that makes you who you are, the brain. So it's crazy, right? You can sue someone or have them jailed or call the cops if they break you, if they punch you, right? But if they break your heart, man, what can you do? It's just words. But if you think about it, it's the same thing, guys. Like, some people are more afraid of public speaking, which you don't get physically hurt, than death. Did you know that? They'd rather die than public speaking. In fact, some people actually say that they'd rather get physically hurt than emotionally hurt, because that actually hurts more, getting emotionally scarred, right? So yeah, when I read that, it's like, wow, it makes so much sense. It's crazy that we can, report them to the cops for hurting you physically, but not emotionally or mentally. Well, I guess it's happening now. Breaking your heart now, but emotional abuse or verbal abuse, yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there. All right, the next book recently read, or audiobook that I recently listened to, it's called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. And I like this one. The first one from chapter 1 is, fear is arguably the most important for survival across the animal kingdom. In a world rife with predators, those with lightning-fast responses were more likely to pass on their genes. In fact, quick responses to threats are so important that the brains of mammals can trigger a fear response before information from the eyes has even made it to the visual centers in the back of the brain for full processing. If you're always constantly in fear, if it annoys you that you're always worrying, remember that this kept us surviving, right? This kept us strong. This kept us able to pass on our genes, right? So when you hear ruffles, right, around the feather, or if you think like you saw a snake there and you naturally react, right? That's you protecting yourself from getting bitten, or for thinking that there's a tiger there hiding. Hence, we listen to our environment a lot. So that you'd survive, right? Prey versus predator. So yeah, understand that fear has its evolutionary reasoning. But in this day and age when there are no tigers anymore, or we don't really see snakes around as much, try to remind your brain about that. Okay, moving on. This is why we feel a wave of fear or jump out of the way of an oncoming car before we're even conscious of what we're looking at. Fear is an alarm bell connected to a rapid response system. Once the threat is over, the alarm stops ringing. Stress hormones stop flowing, and the feeling of fear subsides. While fear triggers the full response system at the moment of danger, anxiety triggers part of the same system when a threat is merely perceived as possible. It is healthy to be anxious and on alert when one is in a situation where there really could be danger lurking. But when our alarm bell is on a hair trigger so that it is frequently activated by ordinary events, including many that pose no real threat, it keeps us in a perpetual state of distress. This is when ordinary, healthy, temporary anxiety turns into an anxiety disorder. So basically, guys, yeah, that's why I react so fast, like, oh, this and that, and they say something spaz for that. But hey, it's my survival mechanism kicking in, right? But how does this relate to you? If your work, if you're always worrying about certain things, then you get anxious, right? And if you're anxious, you can't get creative at work. And if you can't get creative at work, you don't do your best work. You can't think creatively. You can't problem solve creatively. You can't think properly. So what I suggest you do here is exercise, breathe appropriately, deep breaths, eat clean, because that also helps to improve. And remind yourself that it's okay once in a while to listen to your fear responses. All right, so moving on. It is also important to know that an alarm bell did not evolve as a response to physical threats. Our evolutionary advantage came from our larger brains and our capacity to form strong social groups, thus making us particularly attuned to social threats, such as being shunned or ashamed. People, in particular, adolescents, are often more concerned about the threat of social death than physical death. So yeah, again, as mentioned earlier, we hunt and gather as a tribe, we celebrate as a tribe. We don't want our tribe to disown us or shun us or embarrass us because we try something new. We try to fit in, right? And unfortunately, sometimes if you want to be successful, you can't fit in because success requires you to stand out. But we have this anxiety. If we stand out, we might get axed, we might get shunned, we might get expelled from our tribe. All right. So another thing I learned, or another bookmark, was on chapter 3. The designer had not realized that young trees need wind to grow properly. When the wind blows, it bends the tree, which tugs at the roots on the windward side and compresses the wood on the other side. In response, the root system expands to provide a firmer anchor where it is needed, and the compressed wood cells change their structure to become stronger and firmer. This altered structure is called reaction wood, or sometimes stress wood. Trees are exposed to strong winds early in life become trees that can withstand even stronger winds when fully grown. Conversely, trees that are raised in a protected greenhouse sometimes fall over from their own weight before they reach maturity. Stress wood is a perfect metaphor for children who also need to experience frequent stressors in order to become strong adults. The biosphere trees illustrate the concept of anti-fragility. So I really like that part there when that the wind pushed these young trees around, and then because of that stress, they get stronger, right? So ask yourself, what is your biodome? What are you doing to protect yourself, or what has your family, your parents done to protect yourself from your biosphere that made you not experience a lot of stress. And we grow from stress. Just enough stress, not too much chronic stress, right? But we grow because of these stressors. So you need to know. And that's it for today, guys. I hope you learned a lot from these negative emotions and how to use them accordingly. I'll see you at the next video.